talking about the lockdown of AG, right? Like with the X arrow combination with Nightmare arrow, it can still work against a Storm, but they have a lot of highly mobile heroes to worry about on AG's end. They have to worry about the Weaver, worry about the Pango, now the Storm as well. You can only hold maybe at best two heroes down, you Nightmare one and X arrow the other, but you can't hold more than two. So there's still always going to be room for one of these heroes to zip around, be disruptive, and kind of cause chaos in these fights. AG, I don't see any pick on the offlane or safe that helps them with control, so they're just going to have to deal with it and hope that their damage output and their spikes are smooth enough to counteract that Storm. Mid matchup as well, Storm's Spirit versus Kunkka. Kunkka still has a great time, but Storm can play against that with the Vortex, with the Overload, and the Static Remnant. It's a melee hero, so if you close the gap and just force yourself onto him, you can trade a couple of hits. You just have to watch for the Torrent and the Tidebringer whenever it's up.
They're going to go down the DB Ricky route. I believe that should be the position 1 of AG, and we've seen DB play this many, many times. Very, very good at the hero in the pos 1 role. I am thinking now to Wommy, though. Like, what does Wommy want in that offlane? Because there is a matter of you need someone that can push waves, because you are against the Beastmaster, and you need lockdown. And the one person that kind of comes to mind, or one hero that comes to mind right now, is the Legion Commander, that we have seen Wommy been playing quite a bit over the past couple days. So I think if he wants to go down the LC route, it does kind of fit. Nice way to just kind of track down the Storm, duel him up, good against the Weaver. Overwhelming odds, pretty darn good against the Beastmaster. Press the attack, purges off all the stuns with the Roar. Unless it's banned out right now, I do think that is probably the way to go. I'm not sure if you guys can hear my dog barking in the background, but can you, John? Can you hear her barking?
For a moment, I did hear her. I thought I
No
was
matter
having the
how
dog
many
bark
times I
mine.
tell my wife to please not make the dog bark, they just can't help it. Still, LC is banned, so Legion Commander not available now. And now I'm truly lost as to what you want to give over to Wommy. Like, maybe you go back for something like the Timber, but I do feel like you do need to kind of tick the box of wave clear, but I would like to see maybe another stun.
Yeah, I think more control is going to be key. I mean, again, with Bane, Mirana, and Kunkka, you have great single target control, but that's only on a max of two heroes. And even then, you're going to be ignoring one of them while they're held back with, say, the Nightmare, while focusing it on the other one to kill. So there's still a window there for Boom to kind of run around and abuse that. Maybe you go safe here and just go for something like an Underlord kind of ticks those boxes. Control with a Pit of Malice, Wave Clear with a Firestorm. Can kind of get the job done. It's not very flashy, and the control, you're going to have to chain control on top of it to really get value, but it can work out. It gives him a good way of responding to split push as well with the Dark Rift, so you could go with the Underlord. I just feel like we haven't seen
Wow.
Wami play that in a long time, and boom, they close out with a really big core on the Naga. I say core, but they could just go Naga support, Pangolier support, Weaver safe.
Hmm.
So it's still pretty flexible to close out with, depending on who they want to prioritize for farm here.
Very confusing kind of draft here from Boom, because you can just run the pos 1 Weaver. You can, like you said, run a support Naga, and we know CTM's one of those support players who can just play anything in the support role. And Naga's not really that bad as a support. Ensnare's decent lockdown. In fact, it's really good lockdown. Obviously, having the song reset always going to be good, and I believe you can still build up the Aghanim Scepter to have the healing properties during the Ags, and the heal is kind of ridiculous. Unless they've changed that. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure the Ags is still the same. But it does look like it's probably a pos 1 Naga, to be fair. Again, I think it's very flexible between the Naga and Weaver, but I'd say Weaver's a better support than Naga is.
I'd actually prefer a Weaver 1. I think a
Okay.
Weaver with farm is a lot more impactful early. A Naga, farming up does take a little bit more time. We think about Diffusal, Manta timing, or Diffusal SNY timing into a Heart. That does take a lot more build-up. I think a Weaver with just a fast Maelstrom is going to be a hard issue to pinpoint down. And a Naga with no farm, you can always play with Net, you can always play with a Song to disengage, and just slowly build towards the Ags. I think it's the same output. It's just Weaver uses that early farm a lot more efficiently, so it can kind of play with the aggression you can get out with the Beastmaster and Pangolier supports as well. Aged are out of time. They do close out with the Ember instead, so off-lane Kunkka, it looks like,
Yeah.
coming through here for Wami, and the mid Ember for Mamungdaya. We'll see how much a Kiwami can get. Now, this does kind of give you more wave clear with the Ember to an extent, especially once the Maelstrom's up. We will have the Palos Naga, so it is the CTM Weaver. So they're just going to go that route. We'll see how long it takes for Palos to come online. We have seen Naga Siren players in the past play quickly with just the Diffusal Yasha. Like, even with just Diffusal Yasha, you can actually have some forward presence. So we'll see if Palos does want to be more aggressive or wants to sit back and build up. For AG, they've got to play this relatively quick. And you can kind of scale with a Ricky to an extent, but you don't have something like the Magnus to empower you. Battle Fury is a pretty dead buildup, so you're clear for the Naga Siren on the Ricky's not really there. It's mainly down to the Ember and the Kunkka. And as the game goes on, the Naga Siren's going to build up really, really big, right? Like, once it gets a heart down the line, it's going to be hard to burst down with the heroes you have on AG's end. They have a lot of ways of forcing the team fights. I think AG is going to have to really play as quick as possible, but that's so hard against a Beastmaster, against a Weaver support and a Pangolier support. There's just so many ways for Boom to still fight early while stalling out for the Naga.
No, I 100% agree with that. I think could be a very tough game for AG here to try and control your Storm and the Naga at the same time, and you're going to have this pesky Weaver Sakuching around the team fights. Yeah, I mean, as much as I don't really enjoy Position 1 Naga, I do think they have so much in this draft to work around it. We'll see how they manage to pull it off here, Boom Esports. Of course, AG, again, this series is quite important for them to try and pull off. You definitely want a big win here if you can get it. Try and secure your space in the playoffs. But unfortunately for them, they had to be placed against Boom Esports, of all teams, for their final series of the group stages. So it's a pretty tough ask for AG. They definitely can do it. It's just not going to be easy.
No, definitely not. Probably their toughest opponent yet, or they could ask for to close out with. And I'm sure Boom, they're feeling pretty confident. I believe they played a series today. They did drop 2-0, so not quite a good start to their day, but they can also make up for it in this tournament and try to find that win. We'll see. I think the one thing with Boom is I'm always surprised by how fast Palos plays. Like, on his Gyrocopter, he's always really quick despite going for the farming build. I think I want to see the same thing come out from his Naga. Just hit a couple of key items, run from there, start to be aggressive, play with your team, play with the push potential you have with Beastmaster. Eventually, even with that single target control on AG, if it goes long enough to get the Ags up in CTM, I don't know how you kill, say, a Naga Siren with Heart twice over.
That's a very good question, John, and we might have to find out later on. This mid lane, Tim's jumping in, does not manage to get the bounty. Mamang Daya able to take it off him. Still Palos, some great body blocks out on LYM. It's going to force a lot of harassment onto that Mirana. Ultimately, she is going to be able to get away. Still picks up the bounty, and I believe the bounty trade was a 2-for-2 anyway. So a very even kind of start between these two teams. Very, very slight net worth lead to the way of AG to get us started. But talk to me about these lanes, John. Bot lane, you've got the Mirana Kunkka against Tim's on the Pango, and you've also got Palos there on the Naga. Do you see Palos and Tim struggling here, or do you think it might go the other way?
I think it's a rather even lane. What really matters is level spikes. So for the side of AG, you're looking for level 2, level 3 to have maybe the X arrow up. Even then, if you do go X arrow early on, you're not going to have Torrent, which does make it hard to get follow-up damage. So level 3 is likely the bigger spike. For the side of Boom, Tim's at level 1 can just run up, knowing that there's no setup for the arrow, get the shield crash off, trade some hits, distract them from the Naga, and just secure space for Palos. And so far, that looks to be paying off. Palos not really being held back by the Tidebringer, not under threat of arrow. As long as he farms up, they don't need to play this lane very quickly on the side of Boom. But once they do get a value point in the end snare, if you do want that in lane, and that does open up some aggressive possibilities with the damage output of Pango as well.
No, 100%. Over in the mid lane, Mamang Dai going to be there against Yopaj. You'd have to argue the Ember does have some kill potential here against the Storm, and we've seen this matchup before. Players do tend to prioritize taking the Ember when they do have a Storm Spirit player against them. Yopaj, do you think he's concerned about the Ember? I mean, right now he's 9-2 in terms of CS, just freely farming up. Is there a point, do you think Yopaj starts to get a little bit concerned, or is he just going to be just fine in this mid lane?
It's going to be fine overall. Like, the Ember can block a lot of the magical harass Yopaj wants to pump out with the Overload charge and with its static remnant, but he can't really stop Yopaj from just clearing out the wave anyway. So as long as Yopaj gets the CS up, hits his level 6 spike, you're fine. The Ember could look to play aggressive once he has his own 6. It's going to be a back and forth as to who does get the control off first with the Searing Chains versus Vortex. And that's a bit of an RNG roll. So I think overall, you're going to be perfectly fine here for Yopaj. Mamangdaya isn't going to be shut down too hard. He was off to a bit of a slower start, still 3 CS behind, but it's not really enough to sway the lane completely just yet. So I think it's going to be a rather even matchup. Maybe Rune Control's where it matters past the 4-minute mark.
Right now, Rune Control's going the way of Boom Esports as Tims was able to kind of sneak his way into that bottom bounty, water rune, and does take it, and even gets a nice D-ward off for the mid lane of AG as now Tims back in down to that bot lane. Double shield crash out. Because if you land the shield crash on 2 heroes, you're basically going to take no damage from them. That's why the POS 5 Pango has been just so popular as of late. And I suppose we should have a look at the top lane, which we haven't talked about yet. CTM there, the POS 4 Weaver. So switching it up with Tims. It's going to be against UK, and of course you've got DB there on the POS 1 Ricky. Oh, actually, Yopaj mid lane. Dropping extremely low there, but not quite enough to get him dead. He's going to be forced to go get that bounty rune up and just try to bottle himself up.
Stupendous.
I don't think it's too bad. He's still like 5 CS ahead of Mamangdaya, so that time wasted isn't really going to hurt him too bad. Just playing on the edge, trying to get as much as possible from the lanes. As long as they maintain that good rune control we're seeing out from Tims, should still be really fine in that lane.
UK top lane though, First Blood going to go the way of FBZ. And, you know, John, as a Bane player, I really don't like playing against Beastmaster because he can take the Nightmare off with his own boars. And it's really kind of infuriating because sometimes you think you've locked him down, you get a bit of harassment out. As long as he's got a unit out somewhere, they're just going to take the Nightmare off him. And then FBZ, as you just saw, just turns it back around onto the Bane and they eventually just pick up the First Blood.
Yeah, it's really simple. I think the dual lane of Ricky Bane is not going to be able to cope with the aggression coming out from the Weaver and the Beastmaster. Like, you already have level 3 up on CTM, so he's got the value point in the Swarm. The minus armor really impacts that Bane. And sure, you could maybe trade hits with Brain Sap, but early levels of it, it's not the biggest health and damage swap. So you kind of have to watch your pacing. Just try to give DB as much space as possible to CS. Not looking good in that front. Still lagging behind FBZ's farm on the Beast, but it is to be expected in the Beast lane. Overall, against a melee matchup, and Beastmaster has such a good time.
I suppose one of the advantages is DB. He can try to just snipe these balls, and we always talk about this, but the amount of XP you can get from these ball kills is just absolutely massive. FBZ and CTM making sure they keep these balls protected as bot lane. Wami maybe caught out. Tims will get X back. Swashbuckles there, but no lucky shot. Wami, that's a nice body blocks out from Palos. They might be enough. Shield crashes back up in 1 second, and he will commit it, and they do eventually get the kill. I thought Wami would have been alright, but Palos so aggressively blocking the Kunkka in. He just couldn't find a way out.
Yeah, it's the one issue for a melee matchup against Naga. Like, the Naga can just abuse the fact that you need to be up close to get your damage off and just block you in. They make good work for their level spikes there. Wami's lagging a bit too far behind. Palos is at 5 because of how frequently Tims heads mid. And once he hits level 6 with more stats up, maybe the value point in the song, if he feels the need to, it's basically impossible to kill him off.
Yeah, Mamangdaya going to take a bit of harass out from Tims, but will ultimately be just fine. I've been seeing this a lot from multiple teams now. It does kind of feel like we're back into that roaming support meta. You are expected to roam into that mid lane quite a bit and try to help out. Even if it's just a bit of harassment onto the enemy mid lane. It is very impactful right now. And speaking of impactful, Yopaj, he's got a regen room bottled up. Level 6, and with that regen, he just can zip around unlimited times. As now Ensnare is out, they've got the dominated creep, and they've got UK. There is no way for him to survive. Yopaj now, he'll pop the regen, and he's ready to go again. More than happy to dive in if you need him to. They'll try to get some vision out into that tree line as DB does show himself. Yopaj still just showing that he is waiting. DB, it's there, onto the storm. Vortex is out. DB, how do you escape from this? He'll try to trick the trade out, but again, he's just got so much mana. It's still going. It finally wears off now. It's every Storm's dream, John. You find that regen, you know you're going to get a couple kills out of it.
Yep, they didn't manage to break it with the tricks, so a lot of value coming out from Yopaj to get the push on the top tier 1 with that really early Dominator timing as well. So you lost the lane already at 7 minutes in for AG. It's 4-0 for Boom. 2k lead up. It's going to be hard for DB to find some space to build up on that Ricky, but he needs to keep trying. He needs to hit his Orb of Corrosion timing into the Diffusal and try to just hit a power spike early on to get his team set up. But Boom aren't making it easy. Even CTM's just sticking around the jungle, just not giving space away.
Being very, very annoying here towards Mamangdaya and the rest of the crew of AG is... You look at that net worth graph now, John. All 3 cores of Boom Esports right at the top. So they've definitely won out pretty much every lane. As top lane, who have they got? It's going to be the Ricky. FBZ commits the raw round, and with the dominated creep and the double balls as well as CTM, you've got way more than enough damage to take care of this Ricky Maru. And DB, I believe that was his 2nd death of the game. It's just not great news as a POS 1 Ricky to die like that.
It's such a slow start. And DB's all the way down there in that net worth graph. Last of all the cores. He doesn't flash farm all too fast as well. You really do depend on your level 6 spike and then maybe a quick Orb of Corrosion to start finding some kills and building up that way, but it's completely stalled out. It feels like a lot of their momentum now is riding on possibly Mamangdaya and Wami, looking for both setups, arrow setups, looking for some nice burst on a 1 hero, but they haven't been able to do that. Like, we talked about the potential of a Kunkka Mirana lane. We never saw the X arrow setups. We haven't seen the pressure come in onto Palos, and now he's just free to go to other lanes to get his farm anyway.
Yeah, and I'm going to commend FBZ here, John. Like, top lane, you look at that tier 2 tower. It's already lost half his HP, and we're only at the 8-minute mark. The FBZ, he forces Mamangdaya to rotate up, because they know that there's nobody else that can defend it apart from Wami. So Mamangdaya leaves the mid lane, comes up top, tries to defend that. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, DB takes over. But he's not even able to farm it up comfortably there, because you're still against Yopaj and the Storm. It's just the way they're playing the map right now on Boom is just superior. And it goes back to the Beastmaster. You can't leave the top lane alone now, because if he gets the top tier 2 tower down, you're going to lose your outpost. But now bot lane UK ends up dropping. Boat is going to fly in. They do at least get Tims with that. Yopaj is still a very free Storm Spirit and will walk away. So 1-for-1 trade down the bot lane just on the supports. Meanwhile at top, FBZ gets another kill along with Palos. The Raw was back up off cooldown. And guess what? Wami now has to TP top and defend this tier 2. There's no choice.
They're lacking space on map to just get anything comfortably here on AG. The 4k lead of Boom at the 10-minute mark is pretty ridiculous. And AG, they're just stuck in a really awkward spot where they need more time to farm. They can't really do it. They have to keep responding to the aggressive moves of Boom. They have to respond to that control they have on the top jungle. And this gets scarier, especially as soon as the Overlord timing's up. You can't deal with the Ancient Creep. Right now, you can arrow down the Dominated Creep, sure, but the Ancient Creep's going to be a different order of magnitude altogether.
Oh, no, he didn't react fast enough. He has the help of UK, but the Nightmare, it wasn't there in time. He was mid-animation, but the damage is just too high right now as Yopaj. He gets a double and he finds all the stacks. This is not what you want if you're army geniuses. But let's be honest, John, right now they don't really have a choice in the matter. They are just getting bulldozed by the side of Boom Esports.
Yeah, it's just not... They're just not able to find pickoffs. I think the best they can hope for is playing with X Arrow or Nightmare Arrow, looking for one simple kill, maybe one of the supports to bring down, but they just haven't been able to do so. Like, Tims and CTM have been all over the map. They haven't been in a static spot. They haven't been making themselves vulnerable, and just closes out in the ways for AG to catch up. They do have some room under top jungle now to keep their farm up, and that is where Mamangdaya is just trying to build into his Maelstrom. Still a ways off. At least he has enough gold for the Javelin, but still about 1,600 from the full item, and that timing's going to be key. But it doesn't feel like the Maelstrom alone is going to be enough. You really want DB to be able to contribute with his Diffusal. Forced to just rush it, can't even go for a midway item just because they need that inhibit. They need that slow on hand, they need the mana burn on hand to really get a grip up against Boom. Boom, for their part, starting to clump around bot. They've got FBZ here with the army. They're going to look for that tier 1 bot tower and just go from there.
Definitely very, very scary times now. FBZ just about 1k away, and there's your sun out, Wami. He gets caught. Uh-oh. Moonlight Shadow's going to help out. It doesn't seem like they really have detection right now, but it may not matter. In fact, they do. Sentry Ward was placed right into the T1 tower. However, they still got CTM. Yapaj going to zip in after Wami. He'll have the damage. Now he just wants to back out. Chains are there. Mamang Taya, he'll lock him down. Yapaj out of mana. They're going to lose UK, but the Storm in big, big trouble. DB, however, he's dropping to boot. They might be able to trade very nicely here as no, never mind AG. They're moving back in. FBZ onto LYM. Gets another kill, but Mamang Taya now needs to back off, but it doesn't look like he has enough. They'll get Tim's down. FBZ, he's not going to have the damage. They'll get the Beastmaster to boot. Mamang Taya cleans up, and they'll even get the dominated creep, but now CTM on the support. Weaver is back into the fight. He gets the Ember back in on TB. Can he find another? He has a sentry. He's gonna try it. But no, in the end, he'll have to leave him be. And that'll be enough. Still a 6k net worth advantage here for Boom Esports, but the last fight definitely went the way of AG. As UK gonna try and move in for a nightmare, but won't be able to get it off. And Boom Esports, it looks like they'll go back to the drawing board, maybe wait out FBZ with his Helm of the Overlord timing, and after that, it might be about time to get back to the aggression.
You take a couple of big kills there on AG's side, but all that time, Paulus is just farming up. His defusal is almost done. He's got the Manta for self-protection now, so it's a lot harder to just pin down the Nog and burst her down as well. AG did make good use of that double damage on Mamangdaya, so there's still some hope. They do have some ways of forcing fights. They will smoke up. They've got the Fiend's Grip ready. They just need to find a nice soft target to immediately pick off here.
But they do. Towards South UK, smoked up, has the Fiend's Grip, and can easily get a target if they land it. Roar out, Arrow's going to be there, and they won't even need the Fiend's Grip. They'll get a massive pick off on FBZ. And Mamang Daya now with the Maelstrom up, feeling very confident with the amount of damage he does pump out. He's starting to rotate and fight back.
That's what they need to do. Just look for the single target pickoffs, keep stalling the game, and keep trying to build up with kills. They do have really good control in single target from the draft. They just need to leverage it. So running around as 3, 2 supports plus 1 core is enough to get that job done. And just, you know, get some more on the map. They still have to watch themselves up top, though. Palos starting to shove in the tier 2 once more. He's got the support of Tims and CTM around, so they can commit.
Yeah, DB is snared up, and it's just such a long duration. Level 2 ensnare, 3.5 seconds. At max level, he's got a 5-second root on you. As Mamang Daya now, going to try and move in and defend this top tier 2 tower. And Palos, he already has the Manta up. He just kind of mantas off the chains as now they move back in. Mamang Daya, he'll back with the Remnant. Wami does have the boat and the Crimson Guard to play with, but towards the south, Yapaj, he's found out UK. Shadow Amulet or not, the Bane is not going to be able to survive as now Wami, boat out, does connect onto CTM, but where's your follow-up? It's just not going to be there. As Boom, they're going to go back off that top tier 2 tower. They're without a creep wave, but eventually they'll get it done. And with that, it's going to mean a very early outpost being taken by Boom Esports. And that might spell even more disaster for Army Geniuses. As they look to mid lane, Mamang Daya, he'll remnant away from Yapaj. X is out, but he's got help around him. In fact, they zip even more forward. Arrow's going to land. But it won't matter. Everyone's safe from Boom.
And they're just getting control on the map. That tier 2, as you mentioned, will eventually just fall. Fortify was forced out as well, so you're not going to have that option for, say, an additional push onto the bot or onto mid. And with the outpost taken, that could open up the Roshan here for Boom. Now, for AG's part, they have stalled long enough that they've got the defusal up on DB. So the Ricky can try to use that inhibit to get the slow, try to get the damage off with the Man Burn, but they need to kind of get a grip on their map, as if this Roshan falls, you're not going to be able to deal with 2 lives on Palos or 2 lives on Yopaj.
Yopaj eventually just going to make some space for the Aegis. BKB up now as well. And well, Boom Esports. It looks like they're speedrunning this game 1 now. It's Army Geniuses 8k net worth behind the Radiant side. And you've had some key items coming up on the cause of AG, but they're just so much further behind. That diffusal blade now, and if you try to use it on the Storm, he's got the BKB, so smokescreen not really going to matter. It's Tim's, Rolling Thunder, Wami, not spotted him out. In fact, they found the Ember. He ran into the Hawk range. Rolling Thunder's going to connect. Mamang Daya somehow still alive and he's going to survive, but no, Yopaj. He will chase him down and eventually get the kill. Fiend's Grip is there onto Tim's, but what does it matter? It's a support Pango. They're diving tier 3 towers already. CTM, he'll time-lapse back, but they've got Wami to boot. It just feels like no matter what they do, they're just not finding the positive end of these trades. As Boom will get another tier 2 tower. And the only towers left now are down at the bot lane for Army Geniuses.
Yeah, that's it's a tough spot for AG. They're losing map control. They still need more time to get their farm up, despite hitting these small item spikes. The side of Boom is just hard to deal with. With a Helm of the Overlord, with the Ancient Creep coming out from FBZ, with all the vision they're getting out of the Hawks. Like it's just so hard to play comfortably in any part of the map for Army Geniuses, and that's really been the name of the game since laning. Like the Hawks have just enabled so much for Boom to play this aggressive. They've got the blink up in Tim's now as well, so it's easy for him to line up some good rolls. And for AG's part, their high ground defense can work out with a Kunkka and with an Ember, but it's a bit tough.
Amangdaya caught out. Look at the damage. My goodness. Palos just ripping through him with FBZ. I thought he could at least survive the ensnared duration, but apparently not, as now Yopaj in onto LYM. He'll try to leap away, but Yopaj, he's just got so much mana. Just keeps going. And you can't really aim Yopaj either. He's got the Aegis up. So you can't really hope to trade. As bot lane, tier 2 towers gone. All outer towers now down for Army Geniuses, and they might go high ground. I can't quite blame them. They haven't even needed to use a song yet, John.
There's just no point. They're not under threat in any of these fights. They haven't needed to retreat. They don't need it for Sephiroth.
Now DB tricks the trade away. Tim's will still roll through. Bit of a drive-by, but they missed the shots. It won't matter though, because look at that tier 3 tower. Already gone. UK forced the Nightmare himself, but in the end, the Static Remnant gonna really wake him up as Wami now boat in, but BKB's there. Yopaj, he's still mad enough to just man fight this one out. Aegis still up. Wami, he just gets destroyed now as Yopaj, he's electrifying as he keeps zipping through. Roar is there. Mamang Daya needs a way out of this. He'll Remnant, but LYM, he's gonna drop again. CTM now just moving in for another kill as they're gonna try and TP and defend one more time, but can they do it? UK about to die back. Maybe they can finally get the Aegis, or maybe not. DB still trying, but CTM finds a double kill on the Weaver, and it's GG. 20 minutes in, Boom Esports. Just speedrunning, John.
Yep, that they are. They get that FBZ Beastmaster. They get a lot of early activity out with the Pangolier and the Weaver. And he managed to make it work, even with a slower core like the Nagasarn. Just got so much free space. Wasn't under any threat of the X-Arrow combination coming through from AG. And I think for AG, they've got to reconsider their draft. I mean, going for Ricky and Murano and the Kunkka wasn't too bad. The issue was the Nagasarn pick kind of messed it up. Like, you could have still tried for the X-Arrow, but you would always be blocked off by the illusion, so you couldn't really guarantee that kill. Their control in the wide AoE is just held back because of that, because they had to flex the Kunkka onto the offlane when we were expecting something more active or something with more control on the offlane, and it just kind of tapers off. Boom plays spectacularly well though. Their draft just pays off. Yopaj is popping off on that storm, but really FBZ from his offlane, right? Like that Dominator timing, just how well he controlled that lane up against the Ricky Bane, really just contributed so much to that early momentum, and AG's going to have to watch that. They can't afford to give that kind of strong push potential onto FBZ once more, because they just abuse the hell out of it.
That they do, John. We are going to head to a short 10-minute break, and right after that break, we're going to be back with Game 2 between Army Geniuses and Boom Esports.